My cat Freddie loves to be brushed and cuddled. But stirring up his cat allergens meant sneezing and itchy eyes. Then I found Purina One Live Clear. It's cat food that reduced the major allergen and my suffering in as little as 21 days. Now, we feel closer than ever. If you have issues with cat allergens, you really need to try Purina One Live Clear.
Try new Purina One Live Clear today. Purina One, a difference from day one.
Mint is still $15 a month for premium wireless. And if you haven't made the switch yet, here are 15 reasons why you should. 1, it's $15 a month. 2, seriously, it's $15 a month. 3, no big contrast. 4, I use it. 5, my mom uses it. Are you playing me off? That's what's happening, right? Okay, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, $15 per month equivalent required. New customer offer first 3 months only. Then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.
This episode is brought to you by Cadillac. Cadillac certified service technicians are factory trained to fit your vehicle with the tires specifically developed for it. And with our tire price match guarantee, you get the best fit for the best deal. Let us do the work. Available on select eligible tire brands at participating dealers only. Offer ends 12/31/2025. Terms apply. See dealer for complete details. Visit Cadillac.com/service to learn more.
Jif peanut butter. It's that jiffing good, it doesn't really need advertising. So instead, enjoy the calming sounds of the ocean. Jif. Ooh, it's that jiffing good. Get your Jif at Jif.com.
Who says you can't be the topic of conversation for all the right reasons? The Hyundai Tucson Hybrid pairs bold presence with advanced technology and sleek style. It's everything you didn't know you needed in an SUV and then some. Okay, Hyundai. Visit HyundaiUSA.com to learn more.
Hello and welcome to the Assassin's Creed Lorecast. We are so excited to bring you this show.
Our podcast is all about unraveling all of your favorite mysteries from the Assassin's Creed games. Each episode we'll be talking about a different topic in the Assassin's Creed universe. From Pieces of Eden, Solar Flares, and the Isu, to the Hidden Ones, the Order of Ancients, and of course, the Animus, we will seek to uncover it all.
So join us and maybe even take a leap of faith.
Hello and welcome to the Assassin's Creed Lorecast. My name is Shelby or She-Cup, and we are super excited for today's episode. And I'm joined here with my co-host, and I'll let him introduce himself.
Hey, I'm Austin, also known as Teacup, and we are here with an exciting and relevant episode of the Assassin's Creed Lorecast.
Well, relevant, yes, but also we kind of rearranged our whole entire schedule to do this episode. So there's also that.
Not really, because we're almost we're basically done except for a couple character deep dives with the everything you need to know about series.
Okay, gotcha. Well, I mean, still, we added this one in pretty last minute after the release of the new trailer, which we'll talk about.
Yeah. So if you have been living under a rock in your Assassin's Creed news, the Assassin's Creed Red, now named Assassin's Creed Shadows, which is significant, has been released a trailer. And so we got a general kind of like story-based trailer where we got a look at our two protagonists and everything like that. We'll talk about everything we know in a moment. But right now, I just want to get like your reactions, my reactions to the trailer in general.
I thought it looked awesome. It was really interesting to see some things come back from older games, like significantly the hidden blade being used as not just like the original movement, but also the way Connor uses it as like a stabbing knife. And I also like the return of two different protagonists where we're like not creating our own person. We have two separate protagonists who are not just like, oh, either or, whatever. Like we're defined people, but it seems like they're going to give equal time in the narrative to both of them.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And like one of my frustrations with especially Odyssey and Valhalla is it's like, oh, you get to choose. Are you going to play as Alexios, who doesn't have any like unique dialogue or unique options, or you just have the gender bending that is Valhalla? I like Origins, where each character gets their own like kind of unique story, which I feel like is what they are moving towards here, except now it's going to be more equal rather than like Aya's story feeling like a side quest to Bayek's main quest. Like this, it feels like each of them is going to have their own unique perspective, their own unique story that they do. And we'll see how that goes on. When I tell you that I screamed when they showed Connor's hidden blade style, I screamed in my office at work. I'm sure that all my coworkers and boss were like, what the hell is happening?
Yeah, I kind of wish I was in your office so I could have witnessed that. But yeah, anyway, no, I think that the trailer looked really awesome. And I know that we've long held to the opinion on this podcast that Ubisoft does need to have cultural sensitivity if they ever decided to do this setting. But from the trailer, it really honestly looks like they have. Like they're clearly setting up differences between the shinobi and the samurai. That's obviously like that's important. They are not the same thing. We have a lot of Japanese characters. We also have characters who are not Japanese, which we'll talk about later. But you know, I think it looked amazing and it looks really well done so far. But at the same time, this was not a gameplay trailer. This is just a cinematic trailer. So I am kind of still withholding judgment or criticism because we really haven't seen too much of it so far.
I think I agree with that. And it looks like we might get some, like, I've always said, like, Assassin's Creed in this era needs to take hints from the game Sekiro Shadows Die Twice, which is about a shinobi. And the way that game plays, the way that, like, you need to rely on stealth, you need to rely on, like, defensive maneuvers, waiting for the right moment to strike is very assassin-y. And I think that that's really great. So I think I am very, very hopeful for this. Normally, as my, I also run a Star Wars podcast, if you don't know, and my like go-to phrase for Star Wars is I am cautiously optimistic. I think I can say that I'm just optimistic in this one.
That's exciting.
And I will say that I did also get literal goosebumps when the two protagonists meet each other and Yasuke and Nawe see each other. And one of them says, he's like, who are you? And one of them says, we are the shadows. And then the other comes in, who serve the light. And then the original Assassin's Creed theme starts playing. Was an excellent moment as like Nawe pulls up her hood and was pretty awesome. And given the time frame, I'm really glad that there is a lot of emphasis on the assassins in this, not just like, oh, let's play a Viking game with the assassins adjacent to it.
Yes, I completely agree. I loved that moment too. It was probably my favorite part of the entire trailer. And just it made me excited because again, I have also wanted us to return to the assassins.
Yes. And with that, let's talk about everything we know so far about the game. So we do know that this game takes place in 1579. So this is, for those of you who are looking at the timeline, this is after the Ezio trilogy. Not only has Ezio already gone to Constantinople and in Revelation and done all of that, but he has moved back. He has had his children. He has trained Xiao Zhan, who has gone back to China. All of that has already happened. So we're at the end of Ezio's life. The turn of the 16th to 17th century is really what we're looking at. We have two protagonists, as we've talked about. Naoe, who I hope that I'm saying that right. I'm trying my best, but that's what I have practiced, who is a shinobi, which if you're thinking about a shinobi, think about a ninja. It's basically a ninja. But I found this interesting, so I looked up what shinobi means in Japanese, and it means one who seeks or one who is invisible, which I find very, very fitting for the assassins. And then we have Yasuke, who is an African samurai, who for the first time is the first protagonist that is based on an actual historical character, a character that actually existed in history. But we'll talk about that later in the episode. So this takes place during the Sengoku period of Japan's history, which is a pretty big period. This is what most people think when they think of classical Japan with the samurais. Like the Edo period and the Sengoku period are the ones that people really think of when they think of like historical fantasy Renaissance Japan. And so this is when Oda Nobunaga sought to unify Japan. He is a warlord who has other warlords who work under him, and he is seeking to unify Japan in a singular moment. We know that the protagonist will favor different play styles, with Naoe favoring a stealth style and Yakusei favoring a more brutal combat, a more in-your-face combat that we're used to from the RPG trilogies. So, and then this is a quote from Ubisoft about the story. And it says, after a brutal invasion of the peaceful province of Igna, a young shinobi embarks on a journey to fulfill an impossible promise while a legendary samurai finds new purpose confronting the demons of his past. And then I wrote a little note, I go, so a basic Assassin's Creed story. We got vengeance and we got like character development. And then, as I said, given the timeline, we are dealing with the Assassins and the Templars. They have already switched over from the Hidden Ones to the Assassins, and the Order of Ancients has switched over to the Templars. So we are not dealing with these precursor or organizations. They have changed. They are the organizations that we have come to know at this point. Now, that's being said right now, Ubisoft could change and say, okay, like in Japan, they were still called the Hidden Ones. And, you know, that's a total thing. And I think that likely given the name, they might be called Shadows. I think that we need to be prepared for them being called Shadows in this game. And just know that we are dealing with the Assassins. Like, they are established in this timeline. The Templars exist. And then lastly, unfortunately, we're unclear if any modern story element is going to be a part of this game or not.
I have two thoughts. So the first thing is that I looked this up. Xiao Jun, she died allegedly in 1567. So that's about, this is set in 1570? 1579. So that's like 12 years. She dies 12 years before this is set. So I'm wondering if there's any kind of possibility that she might be connected to the organization, the Shadows, in any way. I think it's possible.
Hold on to your hats, because believe it or not, we know about this period from our current Assassin's Creed history.
Okay. Well, we'll get into that in a little bit. So the second thing I wanted to bring up is that if you are watching Fox's Shogun series, that show starts right around 1600. So this game is set about 20 years before that show. So it's a little bit of a time difference, but it's the same era.
Yes. And like this really, our Assassin's Creed history, if you watch that show, they talk a lot about the shogunate or the shogun. This history that we know about the assassins really deals with the establishment of the shogunate, which is like, if you don't know, is just a governing board of Japan's history. Like they've had different styles of whether they've had an emperor or a shogun or some kind of like council. It's varied across Japan's history. And I might be wrong about all of that. I'm not an East Asia, Japan history expert, but that's my understanding based on the little knowledge that I have. So are you ready to learn a little bit about what we know about this period from the Assassin's universe?
Let's do it.
Yeah. So as you were saying about Xiao Jun, there definitely is a period. So in 1549, After suffering a brutal defeat, multiple brutal defeats at the hands of the Italian Brotherhood, in my comments I have Ezio as Bay, the European Templars set their sights on new lands for them to conquer, specifically the Portuguese Templars, which we'll talk about in a minute, because they're going to probably play a little bit of role in this. So Templar activities in Japan would not go unnoticed, because the Chinese Brotherhood, under Xiao Zhen, as you said, so she is connected to this, seeks to establish an assassin presence on the island country to help aid and combat the Templars. Basically, some Japanese assassins who had been living in China or had Japanese descendants, Xiao Zhen sends them to Japan to establish a brotherhood. And thereafter, they get word that the Templars, the European Templars, are trying to establish themselves in the island. So the first place that they make contact is with the Japanese ninjas or the shinobis. Effectively, they absorb the organization into the Brotherhood, which would allow both organizations to grow and learn from each other. The shinobis finding a more united purpose under the assassins, and the shinobis teaching the assassins more methods of hiding, of parkour, of tools that they can use. It's a mutual beneficial relationship. They also make contact and become allies with Oda Nobunaga, who promised the assassins an alliance after he unifies the country. They also secretly ally themselves with Tokugawa Ieyashu, whose vassal, Hattori Hanzo, was a master assassin. Tokugawa was one of Nobunaga's retainers, which that's an important note. He is a warlord. He is like a soldier or whatever, but he is technically subservient to Nobunaga. Now, this is important because you need to know that this retainer word is going to come into play when we talk about the game itself and a little bit of the conversations.
It's exciting to me that we may get more information about Xiao Zhen's life. Love her, so excited to see that. Like I've said, I think it's interesting that we may have, or that we are going to have insight from both the shinobi and the samurai. And I think it's interesting that hopefully we have assassins who are part of both groups. I think that is really probably the smartest narrative decision and will be really interesting, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I think it will be really, really interesting. So as we come, and we might get more information for that, because I have not played it, but I would wonder if the Assassin's Creed Jade, the mobile game that takes place in China, if there's more stuff in there, maybe. So sadly, Nobunaga's alliance does not work out for the assassins. He comes into contact with a Sword of Eden, and this basically puts the alliance. It compromises it. They can no longer trust him because he is being manipulated and corrupted by a piece of Eden. So in 1582, because of a lot of betrayal and Templar interference, Nobunaga is assassinated by assassin Yamuchi Taka, and the Sword of Eden was taken and sent to China.
So here's my question with this. Because we know this event happens in Assassin's Creed history, my question is, that happens in 1582. This game is set starting in 1579. I would assume this probably means that Shadows is going to end before 1582.
I would assume, and we'll talk about that mainly because I can spoil this now, but according to the historical record that we have, Yasuke dies in 1580. But that doesn't mean that he is actually going to die because, like I said, when we'll talk about this, this is a game of historical fiction. They could change the narrative however really they want.
And, you know, they have done this in the past where they've like kind of changed dates around. That could be the case here too.
Exactly. So Tokugawa, along with another retainer called Toyotomi, they sought to continue Nobunaga's dream of a unified Japan. Suspecting that Toyotomi had orchestrated Nobunaga's death, Tokugawa sent Yamauchi Taka to investigate. Well, it turns out that they were probably right. He did do this, and this leads to Toyotomi's death in 1598. So this is a significant time after. The land then becomes divided among those who support Toyotomi and those who support Tokugawa. So at a decisive battle, the assassins would ensure victory for Tokugawa, ensuring the establishment of the Tokugawa shogunate, which would make Tokugawa Ieyasu the first shogun of Japan, which matches the historical record. That we know more about the Edo period and other periods longer, but this is all we really know about the period in which this game is going to take place.
So I, this whole time, have been like the main character, not the main character, but one of the main characters in this Tokugawa sounds so much like one of the Shogun characters. And I had to look it up because it's Toranaga. And so I'm just like, I'm getting them confused. Even though it's not really that similar, I'm just unfamiliar with the naming convention.
Exactly. And so with that, that's all I really have for this point. If you don't have any last thoughts, I think we can head to our mid-break.
All right, well, let's do it.
With a major selection of the looks your kiddos love, starting at just $4 in the Walmart app, a new school year means a stylish new them. Who knew? Find skater skirts and Crocs that say, I'm casual but cool. Sparkly sneakers that say, it's my classroom, you're just learning in it. And preppy polos that say, I'm the teacher's pet, even if they're mommy's menace at home. Find their favorite styles starting at just $4 in the app. The Walmart you thought you knew is now new.
Gatorade is the #1 proven electrolyte blend designed to hydrate better than water. So you can lose more sweat and raise your game. Gatorade, is it in you?
This episode is sponsored by Friskies, who would like to tell your cats hi. Now, if that didn't get your cat's attention, there is one thing that always does the trick. Just pour some Friskies crunchy food in the bowl and you'll hear those paws come running. Works every time. With so many Friskies choices, you can always bring your cats running from their secret napping spots. There's always more to explore. See for yourself at friskies.com or visit your local store.
Makose! Shoot! Shoot the flying demon!
I'm sure you can put this to better use than I can.
Oh, what's this, Greenie? Assassin Christmas?
I needs to be oiled before I goes to the games.
Well, I would have been happy to assist if you were in any state to compete.
Aye. He likes to be oiled.
Well, that's obvious.
Hello and welcome to the middle of the show. This is where we talk about all the things that have to do with the Assassin's Creed lorecast and not the lore of Assassin's Creed. The first thing we have to do is thank all of our lovely, awesome, amazing patrons. Thank you all so much for supporting the podcast. We couldn't do it without you. We always shout out our mentor tier patron, Voss. Thank you so much for your support. And you too can join the Patreon, get exclusive rewards like early episodes, ad-free episodes, voting on episode topics, lots of really fun benefits there. You can join by going to patreon.com/ACLorecast and signing up at one of the different tiers. Now, if you can't leave us or if you can't join us on Patreon, you can leave us a rating or a review wherever you listen to our podcast. And if you do so and leave some kind words, we'll read it out as a future episode of the show. And so today's comes from Heretic, who commented on the Everything You Need to Know About the Animus episode and said this. Has been a super exciting journey with you guys up until this episode. I've learned a lot about what was already my favorite franchise since Assassin's Creed 1, and I'm hungry to learn more. Thank you so much for leaving that awesome review. And then the last thing I want to talk about is our Discord server. Obviously, with the Assassin's Creed Shadows trailer drop this week, we have been having a flurry of activity. So if you want to come theorize about Assassin's Creed Shadows, talk about everything we know, complain about people on the internet who are complaining about the game already, come join the Discord. We're doing all of those things. And I think that's all that we have to talk about in the middle of the show. So, Austin, I'm turning it back over to you.
All right. Thank you so much.
USAA knows dynamic duos can save the day, like superheroes and sidekicks, or auto and home insurance. With USAA, you can bundle your auto and home and save up to 10%. Visit USAA.com/bundle.
Bundle savings are off total premium, not available in all states or in all situations. To qualify, auto policy must be active prior to property policy issue, subject to change. Restrictions apply. Membership eligibility and product restrictions apply and are subject to change. USAA means United Services Automobile Association and its affiliates, San Antonio, Texas.
Hey, it's Paris. You know I love sparkly things, right? Like stars. Duh. And thanks to Hilton and AutoCamp, I just slept under them. Picture me, serving looks by the fire outside my luxurious Airstream, making s'mores with the kids, while a national park is our backdrop. The great outdoors meets Hilton hospitality. That's hot. Explore all the new ways to stay at Hilton.com. Hilton for the stay.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Malaka. A party? I wasn't invited. Neither were the horses. I'm sure she just misplaced my invitation. Stuck.
See if you can find something to pry it open. Connor? What are you up to? No, don't do that. There's no way of knowing what's on the other side.
So we're going to talk a little bit more about kind of the discussion that has been going around about this game and just a little bit of sharing about Yasuke and who he was. So if you've been on Twitter or X or read any of the comments in the YouTube videos talking about AC Shadows, you would be aware of a quote unquote controversy around Yasuke's inclusion. So to just kind of like help us along in this narrative as we're talking, I thought I would share some facts because I took this time to really look up who he was, because I was very interested and very excited to learn that we were getting an actual historical character as a protagonist in an AC game. They've never done this before. And so here's some facts that I wanted to share, that Yasuke is an actual historical figure who did exist in Japan during this time period. So it's not an anachronism. It's not Ubisoft just trying to put an African person in Japan for some woke agenda. No, this person actually existed. They were there. They were in Japan during the Sengoku period. And then, so the other thing about that is Yakusei was a retainer for Oda Nobunaga. And so this is important because so was the person who becomes the first shogunate. He was also a retainer for Nobunaga. That doesn't mean that he doesn't have any kind of agency or that he doesn't become whatever. He was like a servant. Samurai, I believe, does translate to something about one who serves or something like that. Because to be a samurai is to like pledge yourself in service to some. Sometimes it would be the shogun, sometimes it would be your lord, it would be, or a service just to Japan in general.
Something to remember is also like, I think I've seen a lot of people talking about, oh, well, he was just a retainer, like he shouldn't be important, whatever. But the reality is all samurai were retainers because they were retained by their lord. And if they did not have a lord, then they weren't a samurai. Like if they did not have a person to serve, they have no purpose for existing.
Right. And I've seen some people talk about reaching the rank of samurai, like samurai is something that you reach. But the truth is like, even though this is pretty well documented, we don't know a lot about the day-to-day functions or the practices that the samurai would have. Like, I'm not going to assume because I've seen movies like The Last Samurai that I know how any of that works. Not to mention that The Last Samurai takes place in an entirely different time period. So he was also brought over by the Portuguese, which if you've watched Shogun, you know they're a big deal in here. So this is important because I feel this is necessary to say. Slave trade was not limited to the American colonies. Just because that's where the majority of it was happening does not mean that it was not happening in other places around the world. The European African slave trade spanned the entire globe. It just lasted longer and was more prevalent in the American colonies than the rest of the world. But that doesn't mean that it didn't happen in the rest of the world. Another fun fact is that like the world was never culturally segregated, at least in the West. Like especially around the time of once the Roman Empire comes about, they're not really like this idea of like, okay, we've got all the Germans living, we all the Germanic people living over here, and all the Jews live in Israel, and all of these people live over here. No, when the Romans came and other empires, they scattered people, and different people lived in different regions. So it's very likely, you would see white people in Africa, you would see people of different skin tones and pigmentations across the known world at that point. So this idea that like every cultural or race or skin pigmentation was segregated into one area of the world is not really how the world was, all the way back into like the beginning of what we call AD or CE.
The world has always been diverse culturally, racially. It just is. I don't really know where this idea that like only white people lived in Europe and only black people lived in Africa and only Asian people lived in Asia. Like traders, merchants have always been a thing. So maybe, definitely not like there's not going to be a majority of white people in Asia in this time period. And there's not now, like obviously, but that doesn't mean that there were no white people ever.
And so another thing that I want to note about here in like the story, and if Ubisoft does want to change things, I wouldn't necessarily call it ahistorical at this point, because I wrote something that we know more about pre-colonial, like so pre-European settlers, indigenous history and culture than we do about this person who is actually documented in historical documents. So like, yes, he's documented. We know he's there, but we know so little about who he was, where he came from, likely Mozambique. There's a lot to be expanded upon that can do that they can take from historical myths, historical ideas, legends, all these kinds of things. Just because in the thing we are told that he never reached the rank of samurai, one, that is a historical record that is written by who might not have documented that he reached the rank of samurai. Two, he could have, considered himself a samurai. Even though he never reached the rank of samurai, he could have considered himself a samurai. And that distinction is different.
Okay, so let me just make sure I'm understanding you right. You're saying that in the historical record, we do not have evidence that he reached the rank of samurai. However, we also do not have evidence that he did not reach the rank of samurai. The historical record just doesn't say whether he did or did not.
As far as my understanding is, yes.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are fixating on we don't have proof that he was a samurai, when really it just may not have been written down and we don't know.
Exactly. And then I just have some, before we get on to a general discussion about, and just the kind of like word to the fandom in general, a little reminder, Assassin's Creed, while based in history, is historical fiction. There are lots of things that happen in Assassin's Creed that may not have happened that way. In Assassin's Creed, Christopher Columbus is an okay dude. He was not an okay dude in our actual history. I know that's going to trigger some reviews or whatever on our podcast, but that is the truth of the matter. Leonardo da Vinci did not build a tank. He had ideas for a tank. Alfred the Great did not found the Templar Order. All of these things that exist we don't even know, like even the character of Eivor, like we know that there was probably some Viking persons or multiple Viking people or Danish Norse people who went in between and advised kings and did all of that and had influence. But we don't know if it was one person or if it was 10 person. I mean, that's same true for a very popular series of The Last Kingdom. The purpose of historical fiction is to tell a story set in the historical era. So like the things that need to be accurate in here is more like the aesthetic, the clothing, the ways people interact with each other, and even like in a historical, how an African interacts in a Japanese culture. Like, I wouldn't expect him to just be totally moved over and know every single custom. I would find that ahistorical. But him being there, no. And so it takes liberties in a way. The Assassin's Creed has always taken liberties. I mean, it's based in the idea that there was a race of space, giant superhumans who ruled over and created humanity. Like, that's the basis of this game. So let's suspend disbelief a little bit here. It's a story. Let them tell the story. Don't get hung up on Assassin's Creed being historically accurate. And so lastly, I just think that there have been a lot of historical inaccuracies across the board, from things in Italy, from things in Constantinople, from things in the American colonies, from just things in France. But now that there is a Black male taking the lead and an Asian woman taking the lead, suddenly we have a problem. And the idea that there is no Asian representation in this game is ridiculous. And I feel is rooted in the fact that you're just ignoring that there is an Asian woman lead in this game. Just as my advice, and an advice as a white man, is that we have to check ourselves on our biases and check ourselves on why we're upset about things and why we tend to have these reactions to these things. And it doesn't make you a bad person. It doesn't make you evil or anything like that. It's just a reality of the world that we live in. And we have to check ourselves in that.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I do. I just it's really frustrating to me because we know so little about this. I don't think we can claim that it's historically inaccurate when we don't really know much at all. We know very little. So I think it's hard to say, oh, well, this is just going to be historically inaccurate. We don't know yet. But also, it's not historically accurate to have a Black person existing in a position of power. I've seen a lot of YouTube comments who have said things like, and it's really racist, but people have said, well, he should be a slave. He shouldn't be a samurai. He should be a slave. And I hate to break it to you, but not every Black person in the historical record was a slave for their entire lifetime. There were Black people who were freed. Like, this really happened. So the idea that every Black person pre-1864 should have been enslaved is kind of crazy to me. That is ahistorical. Sure, I'm not saying that every Black person that you would have met in America in 1837 or 1579, whenever, would have been freed. I'm not saying that. However, I am saying that no group of people is monolithic. No group of people fits into one description, because that's how people work. There are billions of us on this world, and we're all different. And that's the beauty to me of storytelling, because we can tell different stories, and that's awesome. I love learning about different cultures, different stories, things I don't know anything about. When I play a video game, do not always have to be quote unquote represented to learn something, to get something out of it. And I do feel like I feel like a lot of people who are criticizing this already are seeing, oh, well, I'm not in this at all, and so I'm not going to participate. I'm not going to buy it because it's going to be shit. And I think that that's an overreaction.
I agree. Like, we just need to wait for the game to come out. I'm sure at Ubisoft's next showcase that we're going to get a gameplay trailer and we'll see some stuff and it'll be awesome.
Yeah. And I understand being skeptical because it's Ubisoft. Like, they have not always made the best decisions as a company. That I understand. But like, because this one person isn't a slave, we're going to boycott the game. No, that's silly.
Right. Adewale is not a slave for the entirety of the games that we play with him. Like, yeah, he's on a slave ship when we see him, but he's immediately freed and never goes back to slavery.
Yeah, and what about Achilles?
Exactly. Like,
I mean, he owns a manor.
Right. But like, even in this time, if we talk about in like up to the Civil War, like, look at Frederick Douglass. Like,
Yeah. Look at Booker T. Washington. I mean, there are so many people who were freed slaves or who, I mean, I'm sure there are also examples of people who were never slaves who, did important things, had positions of power, and, changed the world. We can't just write off this one person because they don't fit into a certain stereotype we have in our heads.
100%.
But at the same time, I also feel like the people who are leaving these comments are probably not listening to our podcast. So
probably not. But just a general thought. All in all, I'm super excited for this game. I'm super excited to play in this time setting. Even just watching Shogun and having the political intrigue that is all behind this in a political system that I don't even understand has been super interesting. And I'm super excited to maybe get involved with that. Maybe even to learn more about what the day-to-day life in that time period was, because that's always exciting.
Yeah, absolutely agreed. Well, I don't really have anything else to say. So unless you do, I think we're ready to wrap it up.
All right, let's wrap it up then.
All right. Well, thank you so much for bringing this research. I'm super excited about AC Shadows. I know you are too. We can't wait to learn more. So once again, Austin, thank you for doing the research and putting it all together. And thank you so much for listening to the Assassin's Creed Lorecast. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Assassin's Creed Lorecast. You can find us on Twitter at AC Lorecast.
If you have any lore questions or topics to unpack, join our Cups Podcasting and More Discord server. It's the best place on the internet. You can also support us financially through our Patreon. Find us on patreon.com/Assassin's Creed Lorecast. The Assassin's Creed Lorecast is part of the Robots Radio Network. For more information about the Robots Radio Network, join the Discord server via the link in our episode's description.
If you enjoyed the show or learned something new today, please subscribe, leave us a review, and join the Patreon. And if you enjoyed our intro and outro music, make sure you give a big thank you to Pipeman Studios. Thank you, Pipeman! Thanks again for listening to the Assassin's Creed Lorecast. And always remember, Assassins, stay in the shadows to serve the light.
Want to live better? We got a lot of work to do. Join Chris Hemsworth in National Geographic's new Disney Plus original series, Limitless. Live better now.
I'm diving headfirst into cutting-edge science to uncover 3 powerful secrets to living better right now. The growth that occurs through any challenging experience is really what we seek.
Chris Hemsworth stars in Limitless. Live better now. Now streaming on Disney Plus and Hulu.
It's showtime.
This episode is brought to you by FX's Alien Earth, the official podcast. Each week, host Adam Rogers is joined by guests, including the show's creator, cast, and crew, in this exclusive companion podcast. They will explore story elements, deep dive into character motivations, and offer an episode-by-episode behind-the-scenes breakdown of each terrifying chapter in this new series. Search FX's Alien Earth wherever you listen to podcasts.